Well, welcome back. So what we're going to talk about in this video, I've decided to merge these into one video instead of a couple, is looking at entrepreneurship, opportunity, and kind of what's the relationship um, between them, right? And there's no real consensus among entrepreneurship scholars as to what's right or wrong. So these are just kind of different examples. I'm going to read you some of the main citations from the literature, and I'll put the actual text down in the description so you can follow along if you wish. But I just want to give you a kind of a hint of the rather intense debate on this very subject. So, Wood and McKinley say that an opportunity is a situation that is both desirable and feasible. And this is important. Desirable, obviously, because we define it as a good thing. Of course, the question arises, good for whom? Right? And feasible. Feasibility is very, very important in the evaluation of opportunities, right? I mean, I saw that movie Back to the Future, and, guess what? A hoverboard sounds cool, but I have absolutely no idea how to go about creating one. Okay, so it's not feasible, and therefore it's not a good example of an opportunity. One of my students one year told me that he had met the Burger King at his little sister's birthday party. He thought the guy was kind of not all that bright, so he knew that he could start the next Burger King chain. Maybe not the most feasible of opportunities, I suppose. At least not for this particular student. So Shane and Van Catamaran say that opportunities are omnipresent, i.e. they're everywhere, and they're objective, but their recognition is a subjective phenomenon. So in other words, opportunities definitely exist out there in the environment. They do. The question arises whether we as people, or we as aspiring entrepreneurs, are smart enough, so to speak, to recognize them and smart enough to figure out how to act on them. My advisor always described this definition as kind of like looking at a mountain, right? And the mountaintop is your opportunity. Well, yes, you can go and see the mountaintop, right? But how you actually get to the top of that mountain, on the other hand, is quite up to you, right? And by the way, you may not actually know how to get to the top of that mountain, so then therefore you don't really have much of an opportunity. All you can do is kind of see it. So Short, Ketchen, Shook, and Ireland indicate that an opportunity is an idea or a dream that is discovered or created by an entrepreneurial entity and is revealed through analysis over time to be potentially lucrative. There's a couple things in this definition I want you to take with you. When you look at an entrepreneurship definition and you see the word discovered, that tells you that this is a person with an objective orientation, because something that is discovered is objectively there. Did Columbus discover America or not? Right? Was there an America to discover or not? He was either there or it wasn't. In this case, it was there. So he discovered America. Nobody says that Columbus created America, right? Or he communicated America. He discovered America, right? So when you discover something, that implies that it's absolutely there. But then they add it could also be a created opportunity, right? And so creation kind of implies a little bit of the will of mankind. You can create something. And so creation is very much a subjective or constructed phenomenon, right? You have some sort of a dream, and then you take your hands and your mind and you create it into something that they say is potentially lucrative. And I want to give you a caveat on this. As I mentioned with the social entrepreneurship definition in the last video, opportunities do not have to be lucrative from an economic sense in order to be opportunities, right? You can have an opportunity that provides a social benefit. It makes people happy. It makes you happy. Do I make any money off of these videos per se? on YouTube, especially with my earlier videos? No. But I enjoy the fact that I hope I'm at least helping people. Okay? So in that regards, I suppose that was my opportunity to help people with my own interpretation of educational videos. Do priests recognize an opportunity in an impoverished community and helping people? Do they make money off of it? Probably not. So there should be some sort of a benefit associated with an opportunity, but it does not necessarily have to be extrinsic, i.e. something that has a financial value. Even bartering has extrinsic value, right? I'll give you a table for your assistance, or things like, or I'll give you a chair or a piece of gold. It doesn't have to be currency, but that's extrinsic. Money or something that actually has a value, something normally that you can touch. But it can also be lucrative from an intrinsic perspective. It makes you feel good. It gives you some sort of another societal benefit or something like that. So, with regards to actual, more concrete definitions of entrepreneurship, Shane and Van Caterine give one of the best ones. And they say that entrepreneurship is the study of the sources of opportunities. In other words, it's the process of discovery, evaluation, and exploitation of opportunities, and the set of individuals who discover, evaluate, and exploit them. And Bygrave and Hoffer say that an entrepreneur is an individual who visualizes an opportunity and creates an organization to reach that opportunity. So one thing about Bygrave and Hoffer's definition that keep in mind, an organization, what does that even mean, right? It could be a solo entrepreneur, just one person doing everything, and that's an organization, right? Or it could be a massive company with hundreds of people and computers and everything else, and that could also be interpreted as an organization. So keep that in mind. And then Short and Al say that opportunity defines the boundary conditions of entrepreneurship. And without an opportunity, no entrepreneurship may take place irrespective of the work ethic of the individual entrepreneur. So in other words, if there is no opportunity at all to be had, then there is no entrepreneurship. You can create an opportunity, you can discover an opportunity, but without an opportunity, it doesn't matter how smart you are, how hard you work, or all these other cool things. None of that matters if there is no opportunity. So if you cannot find an opportunity in the marketplace and you cannot create it, probably you're not going to be a very good entrepreneur. And one of the things I always ask people when I start working with them, I say, what is your opportunity and what is your competitive advantage? And an aspiring entrepreneur should be able in some way to articulate the answer to both of those questions, right? What is it exactly you want to achieve, whether you've discovered it or you're going to create it? And more importantly, why should anybody care about you performing those activities? And how can you manage to keep other people from doing the same thing better than you can? Those are important questions to contemplate. Finally, McMullen, Plummer, and X say that an entrepreneurial opportunity is the chance to undertake entrepreneurial action, and entrepreneurship is a broader subclass of human behavior. So what I want you to think about in this particular video is that, especially with these definitions of entrepreneurship and opportunity, is to think about the fact that entrepreneurship and opportunity, they both are necessary in the study of entrepreneurship. And there's some sort of relationship between entrepreneurship and opportunity, but we don't really agree on what that is. It's discovered, it's created, it's constructed. We're not sure about that. We don't know what opportunity is, and we don't know what entrepreneurship is. So let's bring in a potential third way or a potential third solution. You can disagree with what I'm about to say. In fact, most of the academic community thinks I've completely lost my mind. So you won't be alone. But in my own research, I've always said that the opportunity in entrepreneurship isn't even a thing at all to be discovered or created. That's really not it. But rather, it's something that is articulated. Okay? And articulation has a fair amount of precedent within a variety of streams of academic literature. Marcus Aurelius and St. Thomas Aquinas always said, that you can understand the cosmos and God's will through prayer, right? And, what you have to do once you get that answer from God, and I'm not trying to proselytize anyone here or anything like that, but once you get that answer from God, your role is to communicate that to other people. That's the process of articulation. Thinking about and understanding something that's very abstract, and then turning around and communicating that abstraction to other people in a convincing sort of way. So what this means is that in a lot of ways, an entrepreneur is really a very perceptive and intelligent storyteller who tells a very convincing story. Okay? And remember in the previous video I talked to you about chronological time and chirological time? Well, chirological time is particularly germane when we're talking about an articulated opportunity. So when you tell your story, when you have that vision that's entered your mind, however it entered, through a dream, a prayer, whatever, once you get that vision in there, you have to convince people to kind of speed up, slow down, or maybe even reverse in such a way that they align with your vision. And this alignment with your potential customers, you, and then whatever the abstract is, that moment of perfect alignment, I've always said is the opportunity itself. So opportunity is not a thing, but rather a moment. It's only my opinion. Let me give a couple of examples to illustrate. People are very busy in their personal lives and their professional lives too. And imagine that you have some sort of a vision, some sort of a product that you want to promote, or a new market that you're trying to create. You tell that story, and you get people to drop what they're doing and join you in whatever story you're trying to create. Well, they might have gotten there by themselves anyhow, especially if your idea is good. People would have eventually gotten there by themselves anyhow. It might have taken 10, 20, 50 years, whatever. It's possible. Right? But because you tell a convincing story, people drop what they're doing and get lots and lots of work done to help you achieve your vision. So what could be 50 years chronologically, right, would normally take, when you convince people to join you, chirologically, through chirological time rather, you can get people to join you because they've dropped what they're doing and get a whole bunch of stuff done that might have taken 50 years otherwise, and maybe it only took you like a month, right? In some of my own research, I looked at the post office, and I looked at how through the creation of task forces, you could get people to deviate from their normal routines and focus on individual tasks very, very specifically in such a way that something that through normal bureaucratic mechanisms could have taken a couple of years instead got done in 3 days because people were focused exclusively on a very small, singular kind of mission. That's an example of kind of chirological time kind of catapulting you into the future, right? Much faster than you could have chronologically, I suppose you could say. But you could also have chirological time that kind of goes in reverse, right? But of course, as Heraclitus says, you can never step in the same river twice. So what this means is that, let me see if I can phrase this correctly. Think of a Renaissance fair, right? Well, it's kind of like going back to the Renaissance, right? And yet it's not. You have gone back in time chirologically, but you're not actually in the Renaissance. You're just kind of pretending for a moment, but you are recreating previous processes. And this is kind of an entrepreneurial opportunity for you too, right? Now, the hipster steampunk movement is another good example of this kind of chirological going back in time, right? When I used to live in France, there were all sorts of hipsters. They wore top hats and canes and all this stuff, and they looked like something out of the 1900s. Right? That's another example of going back in time. Now, obviously, they're not in the 1900s, but they're kind of recreating it, right? And you see that in fashion too, right? Fashion kind of has trends and loops and things like that. So the past can kind of be brought into the future, or you can say that the future is going back to the past, or there's a reciprocal relationship between the two. Either way, the past and the future are both changed, but some kinds of processes are recreated. So sometimes you look for the past for good opportunities. I was teaching a few years ago, and I had a student that was really trying to get under my skin, and he had a giant suitcase that he brought with him, and it was one of those hard cases that you used to keep typewriters in. And I look at him like, really? He's going to do that? He's watched those YouTube videos? No, what he did is he opened the case. He took out his typewriter, and he stuck his tablet on there, and was ding, and the typewriter was actually typing on his tablet. So while we think that there's no market for typewriters, actually for certain students trying to just worry their professor to death, there is a market for that. Okay, so we're taking something from the past, bringing it into the future, or I guess he thought he was going back in time in some sort of way. So this is kind of how articulation can work. You tell some sort of a story like, let's think about how great the future could be and bring the future into the now, or you talk about, hey, things were better in the good old days. Let's bring that into the now, or let's kind of pretend that we're going back in time. So, all right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this kind of introductory playlist into the study of entrepreneurship. I'm Dr. D. If you like these videos, feel free to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and if there's anything in particular that you'd like me to talk about, make sure you let me know. And otherwise, look forward to speaking with you again further. See you next time.